Africa is sitting with a youth unemployment rate of north of 40%. And Stephen, you, the co-convener of the Youth Employment Service. That's right, yes. And you've been tasked by President Cyril Ramaphosa to create 1 million interns in the next couple of years.
We're up and running. It's taken us we started really effectively January. We've done 27,500 internships or in the process. And to bring all the corporates along and all the small business and get the rules of the game right, that's, we're still in the teething period. But, it's like Jim Collins' old flywheel. Once you get the flywheel turning, then it gets its own momentum. So, we'll get to 1 million, but, you might have to extend the number of years.
Sure. But even that, we can't downplay that number already. It's like so many families and everything being
the
affected.
Upliftment is phenomenal when you give people an opportunity and you give them a skill. And the hope that they can get up in the morning and look after themselves. And that's the key. That's what we're trying to achieve. And, it doesn't always have to be inside a corporate. But it's giving that individual a skill, a learning, and then the confidence to present themselves in a corporate environment or to go into their own business.
I want to chat to Kensani in a bit because she's the proof in the pudding of one of your candidates. But having Richard Branson here, the face of entrepreneurship around the world, I got to challenge you with something about entrepreneurship. And that would be that we create such a big emphasis around creating more jobs. But shouldn't we maybe put that emphasis on creating entrepreneurs and showing people and training people how to create their own income?
Ultimately, you have to create an environment that fosters and develops entrepreneurs. And the Youth Employment Service does try and achieve part of that. It does give people the opportunity to go into their own business.
Richard, what's your take on that? Jobs versus entrepreneurs, which ones should we focus on?
They're both incredibly important. Obviously, I'm biased, being an entrepreneur. Last night we had a party for the whole team that is revamping the Branson Centre of Entrepreneurship here in South Africa. It's a great group of people. Virgin Active is very much behind it. And they think they can create 10,000 jobs over the next 2 or 3 years. A lot of the young entrepreneurs that they'd taken on board were there at the party. So, I've also spent the last 2 or 3 days going to schools in the townships of South Africa, and they're lacking, obviously, and so education is not as good as it should be. There are a lot of kids sitting on the floor. There were no chairs, and so on. But if a kid does leave school at 15 or 16, as I did, they can become an entrepreneur. It may be more difficult for them to get other jobs, and I suspect quite a lot of them are street savvy enough to become entrepreneurs. So I think a country is great to hear that this country is encouraging entrepreneurship. In Britain, we set up something called Virgin Startup Loans, where we have nearly 5,000, I think, startup companies, and we arrange small loans for them. The government chip in, and then we have mentors who work with them, and the success rate of these 5,000 is far, far greater than if you don't help people.
Kensani, as I said, you're the proof in the pudding. You did a internship through Investec, and then now you've got a full-time job at Sabi Sands Nature Reserve, right?
Yes.
How has Yes changed your life and the life of your family?
I can say I completed my matric in 2007. 2009, I went to Stanford College to do travel and tourism. And then I came back home. I stayed for 2 years without a job. And then I decided, let me do something similar to tourism. I got an opportunity to do a community tour. It was nothing. Like for a month, they will give me at least 100 rand for a whole day doing a community tour. And then I heard about the internship post in Subsend. Then I decided to apply. They called me. And then I got a job.
You could have applied to Ula Saba in Sabi Sands. You just got the wrong address in the future.
And it has changed.
Poaching. Poaching.
Why not?
Yeah, and then it changed my life a lot because now I'm now working at Servicent. Yeah, I got a job at Servicent, but I've stayed many years without a job. Then the years program, changed my life.
Richard, talking about Ulisaba, through the Pride and Purpose team there, I believe you've done amazing stuff in the community. What's been your learnings from that?
Well, I think every company, almost however small or big it is, needs to draw a circle around itself. And then you need to make sure that within that circle, if there's schools that need helping, you help the schools. If there's a clinic in that circle, you help the clinic. If people have got HIV and they're not getting antiretroviral drugs, as happened in the past in South Africa, you make sure they do get antiretroviral drugs. As your company gets bigger, you can put a circle around your country, and then as it gets bigger, still you can put a circle around the world and help.
Just to come back there, Monis, on you said entrepreneurs or jobs. So there's a very good book written by an Indian guy who worked at Cisco called Doing Both. And you have to do both. You need to build entrepreneurs, but not everyone's cut to be an entrepreneur.
Very true.
And they create a lot of jobs. And you've got to do both in life.
Personally, I feel there's something needed where when we think about entrepreneurship, and I think that's globally, we think about entrepreneurs such as Richard Branson creating Virgin or Bill Gates creating Microsoft. But I think we should also make entrepreneurship that you can just create your own income, and that might be small. You're not going to be the next guy on Forbes, but and I think that will make a fundamental shift as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that most entrepreneurs maybe employ 5-6 people maximum, and they're fulfilling a really important part in society. I mean, if you add them all up together, they're employing a lot of people, and in their own way. I mean, the only way that their business is succeeding is because people like it and people feel it's serving a purpose. Collectively, they're an incredibly important group of people.
And that's where you get real job creation. Is the more the SMME grows from 5 to 10 people or 10 to 20 is where you're really getting labor absorption and job creation. The other thing is, you're getting, like, people don't have permanent jobs, so they work in the gig economy, and you'll know this well, and there are apps that have been created where you can auction your skills every day. And that's going to become a lot more prevalent in today's world.
The youngsters, the millennials, they want different things in the workspace, right? They want flexible hours, they want more incentive schemes, they want to be entrepreneurs inside the organization. What's your advice on retaining and recruiting these youngsters?
At Virgin, we're experimenting all the time with new ideas, and by and large they're working. So for instance, at the Virgin Group, if somebody wants to go on 2 months leave, we'll pay them. They can go on 2 months leave. If somebody has a wedding or a funeral or a party they need to go to, they won't have to ask. They can do it. If somebody wants to work at home, they can do it. If somebody wants to work at home on a Friday or a Monday, they can do it. If somebody wants to go part-time, they can do it. So we're trying to treat people as we would treat our brothers, or our children basically, or our brothers and sisters. If they need flexibility in their life, we'll let them have flexibility. If they have a baby, we'll give a year's maternity, and they can split it with their husband if they want as well. So, and it sounds like if you add all that together, it's going to cost the company a lot of money. But the actual fact is that on the holiday front, for instance, I think we average maybe one day more per year than we did before we did this. So. And yet, when people go to the pub and they say, what company do you work for? They're really proud of the fact they work for Virgin, for hopefully many reasons, but that definitely contributes to that.
For sure. Stephen, that's interesting because you've just adopted that policy at Investec, unlimited leave and dress as you like during the day.
Dress for the day.
Dress for the day.
Be appropriate for the day, but it's up to you to decide what you believe is appropriate. And if you want leave, you can take it.
Is that how you see the future of work?
I think, and disciplined people, as Richard says, they don't go and they know they've got a job to do and they know they've got to deliver, and you measure them on output as opposed to the amount of time at the desk. You get a totally different culture. And people feel that they are much more in control of their day and their lives. And I think that's very important as long as you deliver. And you measure it on output, not on how much time you spend in the show. And you get maybe a different type of person who's more entrepreneurial, but that's what a corporate wants. People who can think for themselves and get things done and don't have to be desperate.
Kinsani, in closing off, you've got two of the greatest world changers next to you. What do you think should be the message to them in terms of youth unemployment? What should we do better as a country, as big business, when it comes to youth employment? Do you have a message?
I think to them, I'll just say, no, helping is important because they got power. If they have this chance to help the youth out there, they must go for it because there are people who need their help. So, and thank you very much.
I couldn't agree more. And there's a lot to be done. As I said, I've just been to 4 of these township schools, and they won't cost much to make these schools, to bring them up to a level where they can make a real difference in society, and giving kids a chance of a really good education, especially when they're young, is so important, and I think that's lacking in some of the townships.
Corporate South Africa have a massive role to play here, to understand that if you want an inclusive society where everyone benefits from growth, then we have to do a lot more on the social front. Because when I went to business school, they taught us the role of the firm is to maximize profits. That's the wrong thing. The role of the firm is to meet the needs of all stakeholders, and by doing that, their profits will automatically grow. And your stakeholders are not just your shareholders.
I couldn't agree more. I think if you go to a company and they've got impressive offices, you then need to go to the community around that company and see whether they've got, whether they're well looked after. And if they're not, you realise that company's not doing its job properly.
It's not like 3 massive things are going to happen. Like, it's all these small little things, the stuff that you're doing at Lusaka, the many other initiatives that you've got, Stephen.
Yeah, multiple initiatives. That's what transforms. Big things, you are always a big risk. Big projects often fail.
Exactly. And we'll have many Kinsanis here, and that will roll out. And I like your analogy with the circle around you. And I think we must all just draw that circle.